Welcome to the Living Proverbs podcast. We are your hosts, D. Will and T. Lee.
T. Lee, welcome, guys. Welcome back.
Where we discuss how to solve common social, societal, and personal problems through making the timeless divine proverbs intellectually digestible and universally applicable. For every challenge that life presents to us, there is a proverb for it. Yes. And if we live out the wisdom of that proverb, we will at some point transcend the challenge. All right, we are here with a wonderful topic today. It's an old song. It just reminds me of it. Friends, how many of us have them? So we're going to be dealing with that subject today because friends are very important to life.
Yes.
People we associate with, people we intentionally have relationships with beyond our family. That is very important. And the proverb speaks a lot about friendship.
Yes.
It speaks a lot about it, T.
Yeah.
What do you what comes to your mind, you know, when you just think about the idea and the importance of having solid friendships, divine ties, solid friendships?
Well, friendships, you know the old saying that, you know, you look at the 5 people closest to you and that tells you who you are.
Wow.
And that's not even in the Bible, but it's, you know, the old folks' wisdom that they drop on you.
Yeah, they be dropping it.
Yeah, they be dropping it. Yeah. How it may not be always, you know, 100% true. There's exception to every rule, but I would say about 95% of the time, the people who are closest to you have a great amount of influence on you that can cause you to do good or bad. So we want to make sure, you know, that we have good influences around us because
absolutely
that'll lead you to do, you know, either good or bad. You know, the Bible says, what was it? Bad character corrupts good morals. Good morals.
Corinthians, yep.
Yeah. You know, bad character corrupts good morals. So we want to make sure we have good characters around us and that we are also the good character as well.
Absolutely. And you know, we've dived into, you know, some of these proverbs that help us decide, especially if you have somebody young.
Yeah.
This is something that you probably want to have them listen to because we're going to be talking about, you know, the influence of friends. It's very powerful, the people you put around. Like T say, he's, you know, bad company can corrupt your good character. And this is why the old head wisdom, I don't want to say old head, we need to call that something else. We all right with old head?
I'm cool with old head.
Old head. I ain't talking about you. I'm just saying the stuff that we've heard growing up. Because I know everybody mama, if you are at a certain age, everybody's mother at some point in time in their life has said, I don't want you hanging around him.
Yeah.
I don't want you hanging around her.
Yeah. And mama be
I don't want you hanging around. Why didn't they want you to hang around them?
Because they see something you don't. You know, they you know, life has taught them to recognize things that we don't pay attention to.
Absolutely.
And you know, that boy, because parents, they know, you know, they look at how somebody carry themselves, how they walk. They look at the mama, the daddy.
Yeah.
And, you know, they can pick up on things that we haven't yet to, you know, understand, you know, being young. So listen to mom and them. Listen to grandpa. Listen to daddy. You know, and sometimes the younger people know more.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can go back and think about several times that my mother or people that my aunties and people, uncles and people that told me, hey, don't hang with that person.
Yeah.
You know, and most of the time they were right because, you know, they understand the power of influence and they may not have been able to express it or articulate it the way you know, we may be to at this time, but they knew that if you become friends with this person, that something on them would eventually rub off on you. And you want to have certain ties where the right stuff is on the right people.
Yes.
That rub off on you, that impact you, and they're really guarding your destiny when they say don't hang with this person.
Yeah, it's true. And even if you could be hanging with people and you could not necessarily be engaging in what they engage in, but just by you being in the wherever they are at a certain point in time, you can become a casualty.
Absolutely.
You know, you can be an accessory to a crime just by being in a car with somebody, and you don't even engage in that. You just riding because you bored or whatever. So being in proximity of somebody that you're friends with, and you just may not even be involved in what they got going on, can still be very detrimental to your life. So we gotta be mindful of that, you know.
Absolutely. I literally know a young man. I used to coach, and he came back. He was in school, you know, he's playing football, and you know, he came back over the break, you know, and then he decided to hang out with his friends, like, instead of go back to school in the week he's supposed to went back. And he was hanging with people that was not going back to school or going back to things that were productive. And in the car with them, and, you know, and somehow guns got involved, and who he lost his life, you know, 19 years old. And, you know, that he was a good person, you know what I mean? But with the wrong place, wrong people.
Yeah.
And, you know, that, you know, one of the things that I was speaking with his dad, and that's what he was saying. I was telling him not to hang with them people. That's all he kept saying.
Yeah.
I tell him to stop hanging with them people. Why is it that, because this is the problem right here. Why is it that we want to hang with the wrong people? Why is that crowd so attractive to people who are trying their best to live a life that is wholesome and productive? Why is it so hard, you know, to try to, you know, what causes that teenage, that, I mean, even in adults, you know, we want to be around the person who, you know, everybody label as sometimes cool,
right,
but don't necessarily have the character at the same time that what you would want to be around. You know, nobody is perfect, right, but then there are people who just, they're not striving for something to be better.
Yeah.
And what draws a person? What do you think draw people to want to, you know, be around people who are not going to help them on this journey of life?
I think number one, it's probably a false sense of loyalty.
Oh wow.
For instance, you know, you grow up with people, you grow up in the same neighborhood. You know, they live next door, they live on your block, y'all come from the same place, and you feel like that you owe them your presence. You owe them to help them in whatever situation they're in, because you feel like they'll do the same for you, which may or may not be true. For all the young men out there, you need to be like Trey from Boys in the Hood.
Trey, yeah.
When Trey say, let me out.
Let me out.
You know what I'm saying? That's why I appreciate.
Let me out.
That's why I appreciate the older movies. Because it was always a message.
Absolutely.
You know, the movie would be chaotic, but it was a message of, this is what you want to do when this happens to you. You know, they show every dynamic. They show the hood guys, the guys that's selling drugs. But they also show the guy who had a dad at home, and what to do.
Yeah.
They always showed the flip side. So we gotta be. But to answer your question, false sense of loyalty, and also I believe it's people are lonely. They want to belong to something. You know, they don't want to be isolated. But like the Bible says, what does it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? So we got to weigh them both and see which side you rather be on.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's a tough, you know, especially growing up, you know, in your, you know, teenage year, you know, working in the middle school, that is hard because you have so many different changes happening at so many different levels.
Yeah.
You know, your body is changing, your biology, your mind is growing and developing. You're everything emotionally. You can't, you know, you're unbalanced, trying to find it's so many different things, and then you're trying to find yourself.
Yeah. And
a lot of times you're looking at other people and you're thinking, okay, that's what I want to be like. And so next thing you know, you're hanging with that person, and then you're doing what they're doing, even though you don't fit in, and you don't even feel like you fit in with that crowd.
You trying to be something and some people know, they have an inner knowing that this ain't who I am.
Right.
This ain't what I'm supposed to be doing. But I'm gonna do it because I don't want to be ostracized, or I don't want to be looked at as the not cool, the uncool person.
Right.
And you got to be willing. Yes,
that peer pressure force.
Peer pressure, especially as an adolescent. Peer pressure is especially one of the greatest weapons as an enemy, because he knows that everybody wants to belong. Everybody want to be a part of something.
Absolutely. And you think that, and a lot of it is not even like this is what is stated. It's assumed. It's like, I assume that this is what they want me to do, so this is what I'm gonna do. Yeah. And a lot of times, no, they want you to actually be you.
Right.
You know
what
I mean?
They want the authentic version.
They want the real you, and so they can go back and say, you know what? I'm glad you said that to me. You know what I mean? But that's that's what you're to say.
I remember when I was in, I want to say 5th grade, and it was me, I want to say like 4 or 5 other guys. We walking down the hallway going back to class. One guy doesn't like another guy. It's 5 of us. There's a guy by himself. The guy doesn't like him. He tells me, "Hey man, go knock him upside the head." So in my mind, I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I walk up to him. I just flinch at him. He said, "Hey man, I don't want no issues with y'all." I didn't hit him. We just walked off. But the whole time, I'm like, why did I just do that? Why did I even allow him to tell me to do? You know what I mean?
Somebody that he don't like.
You
don't have no problem with
why you hit him then?
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But after that day, I stopped hanging with them guys, because number one, I didn't like the feeling of somebody telling me what to do. But number two, I just knew this didn't make no sense. This wasn't a good crowd to be around. But also, when you scared of your daddy more than you scared of your friends, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, the fear of the Lord.
Yeah, and the beginning of what's that? The beginning of wisdom.
The beginning. That's a proverb too. Actually.
Okay.
We're gonna deal with that one day.
All right.
Yeah, but I had an experience, man, that it really, it altered my thinking like forever. I was hanging with some people in the neighborhood that, I was always about basketball and just doing other stuff, not trying to be in the in crowd. But sometimes, when you go to the neighborhood or the court, everybody from the neighborhood is there at the court.
Yeah.
And so you go to people that can play. You want to be around them. And some of the people that are my age group, just hanging with them, going to different places. They weren't necessarily, doing things that they need to do in life. Right. Beyond just making mistakes, but just having just full of things that was destructive. I would just say it that way. So I can remember being, and this is crazy because it's always somebody in the neighborhood that done all the stuff the wrong way. Mm-hmm. And they're there and they still doing stuff the wrong way, but then they'll see something in you and they'll tell you to do another way. They'll try to get you out of the cycle that they found themselves in. So I was with my group, and and then so he looked at me. He was like, one of the guys on the block. He's like, why you hang with them, man? And I was like, there was the thought that I never thought. It was a thought that I never thought. I didn't even think about the question, like, why am I hanging with them? You know what I mean? Like, what was the point of this?
It didn't even occur to you.
It never occurred to me, but he made me like think it. And then he was like, what you gonna do when you get older? And I started, rambling off stuff like, I'm probably gonna do, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do, I'm just saying, hey, I'm making these, things that I was wanted to do at that time in my life and for the future. And then he was like, I want you to ask yourself this question. And this question changed my life. He said, where do you see this person in 10 years? Where are they going to be? I never another thought I never thought before, if that makes sense. And I was like, wow, and it hit me. I was like, he gonna be locked up.
Yep.
It hit me in my head, or worse.
Yep.
And I'm the same age as them, but I knew enough to know that the path that was, that this person was on was not a good path. And I'm like, I'm with them. Yeah. And then he said this to me, and it scared me. It literally put fear in me. He said, you need to know wherever, he said, don't even tell me where they're going to be next 10 years. He said, but whatever they are, that's where you will be. And I said, and it just hit me, like it literally hit me. I was like, man, wow, that changed me, and I stopped hanging with him.
Yeah,
that's good. I stopped hanging with him.
That sound like
you going to hoop? No, I'm all right. Yeah, we all go somewhere else.
You did the right thing, and that sound like God speaking through that man, the Holy Spirit speaking through him. Yeah. And then with that being said, did it come back around when it was like, what up, D? You ain't hanging with us no more. You don't mess
Absolutely.
with us. So you had to deal
Absolutely.
with it.
I had to deal with the little, hey man, like I deal with one of those. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just locked in, right? You know what I mean? Like you kind of when you make your mind up for something, and then you find ways. But then what I find is that as I've gotten older, some of those people look to me for, they found their path in life now after going through a lot of trials. And now they look, you know what I mean? And that's why it's good to stand out by being yourself. Yes. Because a lot of times the people you're trying to be like really want to be like you. Yes. But you just don't have the courage to do it. Yep. You know what I mean? And that's why I had to learn that, growing up, and that's kind of, something. So let's get to these Proverbs, man. Let's get to these Proverbs. First, we got a couple too, and we could have had a whole list of them, but we just gonna stay with just a couple because they so deep, man.
All of them good.
They all good. They all good. Yep. So the first Proverbs chapter 12, verse 26, and this is what it says. It's a bar. Y'all. Y'all ready for this bar? Y'all ready for this bar?
Pay attention.
Get locked in, man. Do all the all this stuff. This the bar. Here you go. The righteous should choose his friends carefully, for the way of the wicked leads them astray.
Yes. That's a bar.
The righteous should choose. Mm-hmm. If you're the righteous, you should choose